welcome to another episode of the More Than a Game podcast. And joining me on the podcast today is Patrick Sanders, a man who has played at the highest level all across the globe. And when I say all across the globe, I mean it. He played at the highest level in Europe, in South America, had a stint in the NBA G League, but he's probably better known to our listeners for his time with the Sydney Kings in the Australian National Basketball League. He recently suited up for the North Bears in the NBL 1, or the newly formed NBL 1 East competition. And it was great to see him doing his thing and gracing the NBL 1 courts. It's great to hear. We're looking forward to hearing his story and his insights here today. So, Patrick Sanders, welcome to the More Than a Game podcast.
Hey, Dan, thanks for having me. Had some technical difficulties over the last couple of weeks, but we definitely got it sorted, which is good.
We did, absolutely, mate. It's been a long time coming, but we finally got there. Hopefully this recording works, and we'll go from there. But as I said, it was good to see you on the NBL 1 courts. I was actually watching the game early in the season and saw you and your name come up, and I was like, is that Patrick Sanders that played for the Sydney Kings? And sure enough, it was. And I reached out, and you're all too kind to come on the podcast. But first of all, how did that come about, jumping on to the courts with the North Bears?
Well, I got a buddy that played on the team, Anatoly Bose. And actually this started because I was, obviously from retiring, I was moving into the corporate space and getting out of COVID. It was actually my wife's idea. She was like, oh, why don't you play? And I was like, play where? And then she was like, oh, well, they have, like, it doesn't have to be NBL. It could be, they have like the state league, the World Tall League. And then she was like, you should message Anatoly and see if you could get on the team. So I messaged him. And he said he'd get back to the coach, but he was just joking. He was actually shocked that I wanted to play. But then I played with them in 2021. Obviously that season was cut short, so it was only like 5 or 6 games, but enjoyed it. And then played this previous season under slightly different circumstances because obviously I went back to the States, so I missed about 3 to 4 weeks of the season. Then I was working full time, family, school, so it was a lot. So I wasn't really able to dedicate as much time as I normally do to the game, but it was still fun. It was still fun, and we were able to get on a good run and do pretty well.
You guys are great, and I think just the experience of some of the younger guys playing against players like yourself and some of the old NBL guys that were playing in that competition, it really made for a competitive environment. How did you find it? Was it a high level, the NBL 1 East competition?
Yeah, no, it was a pretty good level. Each team has kind of their own unique style, and like you mentioned, you got the combination of like guys with experience and guys without experience. So it makes for an interesting basketball game because everyone's at different levels. So it's almost like it's a bit weird. Like it's actually a bit different from any type of competition I've ever played in. Because obviously, like some of the guys on the team, like I'm literally twice their age. So it's like I can't yell at him like he doesn't know. So you just got to be patient and encourage and just talk and stuff like that. So yeah,
absolutely. You see yourself coming back for another season next year, or?
Man, it's going to be tough. We actually sent our oldest to the States, so she's going to finishing up high school there, and so obviously we have to go over there, and we probably have to spend about 4 or 5 weeks, and then also working full time, and then finishing up my master's program. So it's going to be a challenge. I think it'll be a last minute decision for me. Although I enjoyed like the season this year, like, man, I was tired like at the end because we had some injuries. So I had to play like way too many minutes, and I was not in shape for that. Like I was in shape. I told Coach Matt, I was like, man, I'm in shape for about, 20, 25. And then all of a sudden it went from like 35 to 40. I'm like, bro, I can't do this, man.
Yeah. Gosh, mate. That's a heavy toll.
Yeah, and it's even worse when you play that on Sunday, then you got to get up and go to work on Monday.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's not like the old days, eh?
No,
Well,
not
mate,
at all, man.
well, let's talk about those old days because it hasn't been too long since you suited up in the professional leagues. But as I said, you're probably most well known to our listeners for your time with the Sydney Kings. You had a year in the NBL,
Yep.
and it was actually the year that the Kings came back after a 2-year hiatus.
Yep.
It's well documented that the team went into administration because of dodgy ownership, and it got reignited, and the brand relaunched back in the season you played. So, did you know much about the situation when you started with the Sydney Kings? Did you know much about the history, and what was that season like playing in the NBL?
Well, I had actually started the season in Europe for a Euro Cup team in Latvia. In that situation, it wasn't great for me. If anyone's ever played in Eastern Europe, they know exactly what I'm talking about. It's definitely not for everybody. And so I left there around like the October, November period, and the agency I was signed to at the time told me about a job here, which was kind of polar opposite in terms of like weather and lifestyle. They did say that kind of got off to a rocky start, and they did. But I was game for the challenge. I think at that time I was probably about 25 or 26, maybe 25, 26. So, yeah, came on down, had fun like instantly, with the guys. Everyone was really nice. There was a lot of energy around, like you said. It's kind of that first year back, and then playing in the city was definitely pretty cool. Yeah, no, I mean, when I first came down, I was actually surprised at kind of how physical it was. Like it's it's similar to the American style of basketball. Well, it was then. The styles changed, but back then, like everyone, the size was everyone was pretty big. The pace was really slow. It was like more defensive oriented per se. So it was a bit different, a bit physical, but it was fun.
Absolutely, that's awesome. And I think having those experience, as I said, of coming in and playing for a team with such rich history would have been incredible. And obviously the disappointment of missing out in those 2 years would have really, well, I remember just the fans came out and really got behind the team. But it was a tough season for you. The team didn't do that great, but I guess because you are in Sydney now, as you watch the NBL now, have you seen a progression in the level from what it was when you played to what it is now? You still watch it, do you still watch it closely, or not so much?
No. Well, I'm going to correct something. So when I got to the team, I think they were like 1-8 or 1-9, and then we ended up with like 12 or 13 wins. So I kind of did make a bit of a difference. So I'm going to leave it at there. But as far as basketball in the country, it's definitely grown. I think having Australians in the NBA gets Australians excited about the game, and you kind of see that globally. People from other countries, when they get to go to the NBA, their country tends to follow, and you see kind of that pickup within basketball. And obviously having a daughter who plays, you can see like at the grassroots level, at the kids level, it's definitely grown. Like there's so many teams at these associations, like the gyms are never free, in boys and girls, which is really cool. And you have kids actually wanting to go over to the States and play, or decide to play state league or different things like that. And another thing that's interesting is obviously when I first came down here, they would show NBA like once a week. And then when I moved down here permanently, when I got married, it was a little bit more. But now it's literally like every day on ESPN, they show the game. So that just tells you right there kind of the growth, the game in Australia.
100%. I guess it is chalk and cheese, the difference between growing up in America compared to Australia. But yeah, as you said, we've just seen this resurgence at grassroots level, and a big part of that's the NBA again, with the NBL doing so great. But if I can take you back to your childhood and growing up in the States, I believe you're born in California and would have been in and around basketball, no doubt. But what was it like? I guess the comparisons, you can't really make comparisons as opposed to, like, it's a huge sport in the States, obviously. But what was it like for you growing up? and how did you get involved with the game of basketball?
It was just natural. Like in the city, there's not really any fields, so you're not playing soccer. No one really has, people may have a baseball bat, but you don't have the glove or different things, but everyone has a ball. So
sure.
that was kind of the sport. But, we grew up, we played outside. So, I would play in my grandmother's backyard for hours with my cousin, play at the park, play at school. So my start was more so like playing with my friends and playing in the neighborhood. Then it went to more organized. Whereas now it's like you start off playing organized, whereas that's not what we did. So yeah, man, my childhood was spent. I played all sports, but it was mostly spent outside at the courts, at the park, really.
That's awesome. And obviously, you made your mark and worked your way up the ranks. You had a stint, or you spent time at the University of California, Irvine, I believe, and played NCAA there. Had an incredible career. By looking at the statistics, you led the team in scoring in your final year, I believe. And for those who are not aware of the NCAA and how it works, obviously it was Division I believe, that you played as well. So what was that level of competition like? Obviously, everyone there wants to make their mark, wants to hopefully, dreams of playing in the NBA. What kind of school was UC Irvine? And what were your experiences like playing in that college system?
Well, it's different, man. High school kids, when they go to college, I think many feel like it's going to be easy, but it's a totally different game. You're playing against in some cases, grown men. So like the conditioning, the physicality, the consistency at which you have to play is something that is learned through hard work and time. Very few players come in ready. So it takes a bit of time. At Irvine, like my first year, I didn't play that much, like at all. But got in the lab in the off season, and then I was pretty much like a 3-year starter from like my sophomore year to my senior year, and then did the all conference stuff like my junior year and then senior year. But it was tough. It was a lot of hard work, man. A lot of hard work because there, like it's, and I'd imagine even more so now, like, people's livelihoods, the coaching staff and stuff, if you don't win, people may get fired. So it's a certain level of intensity, almost like pro level. But I enjoyed my time there because I was local. Irvine is just in Orange County, so it's not too far. So a lot of my family and friends were able to come see me play when I was in college. So it was really good.
It's awesome. That's makes it a bit easier, I guess, to transition into college.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, man. And looking back, obviously, all my family weren't able to see me play professionally, playing all over the world. But I remember those moments, and they're quite fond of them when I was in college.
I can imagine. So, I guess for the Australian side of things, when I was growing up playing, college was a legitimate pathway. A lot of guys I played with took, but it's probably bigger now in terms of the amount of Australians going over and playing, and guys like Paddy Mills and Matthew Dellavedova at St Mary's. There's been a whole contingent of Australians that have come through, and I guess a lot of coaches look now to Australians, which is great. I guess my question around college, I believe there was a Australian that you roomed with. That was your first taste of the Aussie culture, is that right? Or was he playing with you, or just?
No, that's right. He was on a team. He was 1 year older than me. His name was Nick Campbell. We were actually roommates 1 year. And he was a great guy. Super cool. Just never got worked up, which is interesting because Australians are a bit fiery and always ready. Never fight, but will talk a big game until they're about to fight. He was like the most laid back guy ever. So when I first came to Australia, I was like, man, why is everyone so amped up? I thought you guys were relaxed. But no, he's a good guy, and we check him from time to time.
Yeah,
as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you learn any lingo while you roomed with him?
I didn't learn any really Aussie lingo then. I learned some when I first came down. Obviously, hearing like coach talk and whatnot, and like some stuff I was just lost. I was like, wait, what did he say? And then like, that means that, type of thing. So
yeah, absolutely. I can imagine that the other way around is true as well. I remember going to the States and just people really struggle trying to understand what you're saying. And yeah, I think I can relate to that. But you actually, while you're there, you're obviously coached by Ian Rebellion, well-known Sydney Kings legend. But also,
I actually got a crazy story. I actually saw Ian. So obviously he coached at Central Coast, so played against him. Then I actually saw him like a couple weeks ago because we had a conference at the place where I work. So he's obviously he's a director at one of the clubs. So I ran into him and was able to rub it in that I beat him a couple of months prior. But no, it was good to see him.
There you go, absolutely. The inaugural coach back when they came back. But you also had Bob Turner there. He was part of the reason they got back up and running. And obviously King's legend, coach, administrator, still involved. What was it like being around Bob, and what did you learn off him in terms of, I guess, any wisdom that he shared with you at the time that you took into your career?
Yeah, no. When I first came in, Bob was one of the first people I met, and he was really nice. And he just said, just work hard, and you need to just do the best you can, and it'll be enough, and the fans will be able to gravitate to you. Try to create some excitement out there, and that's just kind of what I tried to do.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a good guy. He's doing some great stuff in the sporting administration world still. But from college, you moved, I believe, you were undrafted in the NBA draft, but you suited up and got a contract with the Sacramento Kings in the Summer League and got that experience. That would have been a pretty awesome experience. And can you share to our listeners, or for our listeners, just, again, the competitive nature and the cutthroat nature of the NBA? You can imagine, again, just how full on it is, but yet still a great experience for yourself to suit up and play in the Summer League at the very least.
No, it was good. Coming out of a smaller school back then, I didn't get that many NBA workouts, so I got a few, and Sacramento picked me up to play. I didn't play much, but I did play a little bit. Got a chance to really practice, which was good. And compete. But no, I enjoyed the experience. We were living in Vegas in the Palms, and you got like $120 a day for food. So I was like fresh out of college. So that was fine for me.
100%.
That was fine for me. So I didn't mind it one bit. But it was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Were there any guys that you played with or against that are really kicking on and made a name for themselves that you remember?
Well, like, I'm a bit older, so like most of those guys are pretty much out of the league. So I think who was I playing with on the Kings? A guy named Jason Thompson. He played about 10 years in the NBA. One of the games that I did play in, Gerald Green played in, who won the dunk contest a couple of years. Super athletic. That was pretty cool. But because of my age, like most of the guys that played at that time are out of the NBA.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, getting on a bit, mate. You start to realize that when anyone else retiring, eh?
I am, man. I realized it when with North, someone was like, I was like, oh, how old are you? Oh, I'm 17. What? Well, I turned 18
That's only a few years older. Only a few years younger, mate. There you go. Still killing it though, from what I saw. Still got it. But
oh man, trying. It's more footwork and fakes than athleticism. These days.
That's it. I know the feeling. As I said, tried to make a comeback this year, and athleticism was next to zero. So struggled big time. But as I said, a great experience, and I had the opportunity to travel the world. What a great career you've had, and as I said, spent most of your time in Argentina and South America, but you did have stints in Europe and Latvia, as you said. Just for our listeners and those who wouldn't be too familiar with those leagues, I can imagine, again, the cutthroat nature of them, particularly being an import, having to perform. What were those experiences like? And I can imagine how amazing it was to see the world and playing at the same time.
Yeah, no, it was really good. And at the time, I really loved to play, and had the opportunity to play. And so I just tried to maximize my talent and ability. Looking back now, I'm like, with some of the rules and like the way it is, I'm just like, man, like it's just a very pressure filled situation, because I mean it's one of the only jobs where, if you don't perform, like the locals, they have their job, but they're able to interchange you. So it's tough, man. And they're always recruiting. There's always a new crop of players coming in. So you really have to stay in your game, but you literally have to go to another country, assimilate to the language, the living, the teammates, the plays, the style of ball. It's really interesting, but I feel like those kind of tests and those trials just made me an all around like better person, being able to adapt to pretty much anything. But yeah, no, your European leagues were good. South America's good. Asia's good. Yeah, no, I had a great time all around.
No doubt. And I guess, as I said, the nature of it is so cutthroat being an import, but just drawing on what got you through that time, what did you look to for inspiration, I guess, to be able to perform at the highest level, day in, day out, week in, week out? I can imagine it'd be hard to get up for it all the time, and just with the pressure of having to perform. So what was the key thing that sort of inspired you, or that you looked to this sort of, drive, keep that drive?
No, I've always been like a very I'm a believer in Christ. A lot of prayer, a lot of reading, and it kind of helped calm me. Looking back now, I kind of see the pressure and different things like that. But when I was in it, I didn't really see it like that. I tend to kind of operate as though it was impossible to fail, and I think, with that mindset, if you play and you try and perform thinking that I don't want to make a mistake, that's like literally the worst thing you can do. If you go out there to do your best, chances are, if you put in the time, put in the preparation, that your best will definitely show more often than not.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think too, when you talk about some of the greats of our game, your Kobe's, your MJ's, these guys are able to deal with pressure, I guess, in the most toughest of situations, where a lot of players would probably falter or make a mistake, but they had a knack of time and time again hitting that game-winning shot or making the play. I guess in terms of translating that, dealing with pressure into real life, have you found what you've learned from playing the game helpful when you go into now in the corporate world or your working career, and I guess different stresses and pressures with children and marriage and that sort of thing? Obviously, you talked about your faith, but what do you draw on, and how do you deal with that pressure now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. What's crazy is when you it helps you be able to kind of adapt. Obviously, like your people skills will be great because you've been able to work with all types of people, all different kinds of pressure situations. So you know how to talk to people in different situations. Your body language is always right. It's just little kind of soft skills that you pick up that kind of make the difference when you're entering into the business world. So in terms of kids, man, you just learn like patience. Obviously newfound energy, because when they're young, no one's really getting any sleep, but you still press on, as I'm sure you can relate. But that's pretty much some of the lessons that I learned. Just kind of just being able to just go in a room and feel comfortable, and just relate to pretty much people from all walks of life.
That's awesome, mate. Some good advice. a big part of this podcast is to sort of encourage stories, but also unearth key virtues around life, leadership, whatever the case may be. And it's come off my career playing, obviously not playing professionally, but I learned so much playing at the level that I did that I've now been able to apply to life. So we've spoken about dealing with pressure and those sort of things, what you draw on for inspiration. But are there any other lessons that you learned from playing the game at the highest level that you've been able to translate it into your life today?
Yeah, that if you stick with something long enough, you and it's something that you really want to do and you're passionate about, you'll get your desired results. It's just a matter of just focus, dedication, and preparation. So that's one of the biggest things I learned throughout my career. Like I started, I feel like I got better each year, adding something different, and just kind of took that same mindset within the corporate world. Just try to improve what it is that I do. Each and every day, learn from my mistakes, and just try and get better.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that focus, dedication, and preparation. If I can drill down into the preparation aspect, how much preparation did you do before a game? I saw a picture of Scottie Pippen recently, just doing video, and his preparation. Obviously, Michael Jordan as well. Those two of the best in our game. But what was the preparation?
I was never a big like worker out before the game, but like during the week in preparation for practice, yes. So I lift weights, shoot before and after practice. I was actually talking with someone the other day, and they were asking me like, how many shots do you think you've made like in your life? And I was like, maybe close to like 1 million. Maybe close to like 1 million, because I would shoot after practice every day at least like 150 or 200 shots, and you do that 5 days a week for 10 months for 12 years, plus you got the off season where you're getting up anywhere from like 1,000 to 2,000 shots a week. So it adds up, man. I definitely put in my time. Which is probably why, I can still play a little bit now, because I kind of put a lot of work in when I was younger.
Absolutely. And what does that preparation look like today in your working career and as a child, as a parent with young children? How does that preparation learning translate today?
Man, with kids it doesn't, because you can't prepare for them. It's just kind of a spontaneous thing. But as far as work, I get to work in early. I prepare, just try and kind of clear my mind before the day starts. Set a schedule, stick to it, and things like that. It's more so time management, as opposed to actually doing the actual tasks and things like that.
That's awesome, mate. Great stuff. Again, focus, dedication, and preparation. Some good advice there. Just to finish up, just in terms of other aspects of your life, you're married to Prinny Stevens, who people may not know, former singer on The Voice, and a great singer, great performer. So how did you guys meet? How did that happen?
Well,
obviously when you're at the Kings.
She sung, so she actually sung the national anthem at the game that I was playing it, and then that's kind of how we first met. We had a mutual friend that connected us, and then kind of that relationship started, and for the next it took me a while to say I was ready. I was still kind of young, so I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to settle down. But great woman. Learned a lot about myself, with her. She's awesome. She gives me inspiration as well. She's really good at what she does. See her work and become inspired, and pushes me to work even harder and do better.
That's awesome. Obviously, she made a return to The Voice a few years back, and obviously did a great job again. What was the nerve levels like watching her back performing, doing her thing on TV? Were you more nervous suiting up for a game or getting ready for a game, or watching her on TV?
Yeah, well, no, well, I actually wasn't. I actually wasn't here, so I was actually
Oh
playing,
wow.
and I think she brought the girls on with her.
Right.
She had the girls with her because I wasn't
Mm,
here.
mm,
But when she told me that she was going to do it, we in our
mm,
family, we support each other in whatever it is that we do, and
mm,
we
mm,
make it work as a family.
mm,
And yeah, and I thought she was amazing. As
mm.
always, the judges got it wrong. So.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome, mate. Good to hear. Well, mate, I've loved hearing your insights and story here today. It's been a pleasure, and all the best. Talented family, no doubt. But if you do set up next season again for the North Bears, all the best for that, and congratulations on a great career, mate. But Patrick Sanders, well, thank you for joining us on the More Than a Game podcast.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, mate.